arrangements to get it there. There's always a pack of value in there. The second thing I like is that he does stuff on YouTube. And I thought the Psaki interview this morning that I saw this morning, maybe it was yesterday, about Kaine and how difficult it is to understand the process. It's really transparently, there's no case. You did a great job on that too, so thank you. Thank you. What do you think, Kaine? Are you ready to give it up to him?
I just want to do a sound check. Is this good too?
Okay.
Mint at 260 sugar diamonds.
Thanks so much. Happy Donkey Day. Washington County Dam. Friday night Dam. Southwest Virginia Dam. Thank you so much. I am really glad to be here with you. I had 3 fantastic days in Western and Southwestern Virginia. When I got invited to Donkey Days, I knew I was going to be here. Yesterday, we celebrated the almost ribbon cutting at Appalachian Communities of Hope in Marion, a recovery center that we're really excited to help get funding for. We attended the 50th anniversary of the New River Area Agency on Aging that does great work with seniors in the New River Valley. We visited the new EO Center here in Abingdon to learn about workforce and child care. And I knew I was going to be here, and they said, well, you know, but Donkey Days is Saturday night. I said, well, let's stay an extra day. Now my hope was my UMW mine worker friends often have the fish fry the same day as Donkey Day. So I said, I'm going to get to do both. Then I found out fish fry was last week, but I did go over to Damascus for Hope Floats this afternoon. I mean, it's kind of, let's just start there. A year ago today, that horrible tragedy that would have been much worse if it had happened at night rather than in the day, and the water had come up when people were asleep, this thing would have been infinitely worse. As bad as it was, Damascus is strong, Washington County is strong. It was really exciting to see. Yeah, Taylor's Valley tough. Thank you. There you go. So really good to be here. And I'm here with you. I came right at 5 and I visited with many of you. I'm not going to stay very long after I'm done because I'm on Face the Nation tomorrow morning. I've got to drive back to the nation. I hope you're applauding after I'm done. Face the Nation. Watch it tomorrow, because I got a lot to talk about. So here's what I would like to do with my friends from Washington County, my friends from the 9th, my friends who are supporting Cindy Green running for the House of Delegates. Let me tell you about the moment nationally from Washington County to Washington, D.C. and give you a little bit of a window into what's going on right now and the way I look at this challenge. And then let me tell you why Virginia, Governor, LG, AG, House of Delegates races are so important, not just for us, but the entire nation. And I'm not kidding, even the world are watching to see what the results will be in Virginia on November 4th. So starting off with Washington. This is the toughest chapter. I'm now in my 32nd year in elected life. Carl mentioned I started as a city councilman, gone everywhere, but I'm still the junior senator because Mark Lennon insists on calling me the junior senator. That's it. He really stretches out the word junior senator. This is the hardest chapter. I feel like I was a missionary in Honduras and I was a civil rights lawyer for 17 years and I've been in elected office for 31 years. All of it was preparation for this moment, a moment I never would have expected. I wouldn't have predicted our country would be living through this moment. I'm going to tell you how I see the moment, big picture, and then talk about a couple of things in Washington. This is the second great test of American democracy as we enter our 250th year. Now, we've had tests. I mean, there's tests every year, but I really view this as the second great test about fundamental principles. The first one you all know, 1850 to 1860. America had to decide whether a nation that said equality was our core principle, could we excise the sin of slavery without killing the body politic? And it was hard, bloody, challenging, awful.
But had we not done that, we wouldn't have been the unified nation that helped defeat, tyranny in World War I, that helped defeat fascism in World War II. We wouldn't have done the things that our nation was destined to do. This one is equally existential. It's a different challenge. I would say the challenge that we're grappling with right now is a nation that was formed to cast off tyranny and embrace democracy. Are we still willing to embrace democracy rather than tyranny? Tell you a little story. July 5, 1776. July 5, 17. We know what happened on July 4, 1776. Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia. Many Virginians were there. What happened on July 5, 1776? The Virginians who didn't make the cut to be in Philly, like the B team, were at a constitutional convention in Williamsburg. And on July 5, 1776, here's what they did. They elected Patrick Henry, the first governor. They passed the first Constitution of Virginia. They passed the Virginia Bill of Rights. And they did a fourth thing. They embraced the Virginia State Seal that they designed. A 4-member committee designed it in 4 days, led by George Wythe. The State Seal, as you know, is a woman, bare-breasted, an Amazon representing virtue, standing on top of a monarch whose crown has toppled off, representing tyranny, and they chose the motto, Sic Semper Tyrannis. Sic Semper Tyrannis. Let me tell you about that motto. 49 states have mottos that are positive. To the stars through adversity, Excelsior, onward. Michigan's has the weirdest. If you seek a pleasant peninsula, look around you. Every other state's motto is positive. Virginia's is the only one that is a warning and a rebuke. Thus be it ever, thus be it always, to tyrants. They chose the future verb tense. Not, we don't like tyrants, down with tyrants. King George is a tyrant. Thus be it ever, thus be it always. The framers knew that tyranny was a permanent fact of human nature. That monarch is not just King George. I mean, we all understand tyranny because every individual person, like, I would rather do things my way. It starts with that, just so I would rather do things my way. And they knew that was a fact of human nature. And they wanted to create a government that if power was put in the hands of an individual, it had to be checked and balanced so that individual would not take that natural tyrannical spirit and become a tyrant like King George and others were. 30% of America in 1776, they wanted to stay with England. This was not everybody embracing democracy. 30% said monarchy was fine, tyranny is fine, England is fine, maybe democracy's too messy, or maybe we've grown used to tyranny, or maybe we have friends and family on the tyranny and the monarchy side. 30% were willing to stay with tyranny. And I think at 250, and we're about to enter into the 250 commemoration in January 250, America is going through a fundamental question about whether that decision to go with democracy, and it's messy, whether to go with democracy rather than a strongman, an authoritarian monarch, emperor, czar, tyrant, whether that's still a choice that we'll make. All around the world, people are grappling with. Look at nations like Hungary or El Salvador or Colombia or Venezuela. Every continent, there are nations that are moving toward tyranny, sometimes moving back toward tyranny. And it used to be that the tyrants in the world would say, hey, don't put your values on us, we have a different system. Now many of the tyrants are saying, not leave us alone, they're saying our system's better. Our systems are better than democracies. You guys are too messy, you're too slow to make decisions, you're too divided. So embrace tyranny, embrace authoritarianism. That's the moment that we're living in. That's what this moment is about. That's why what we do when we gather here is so very, very important. Sadly, I got a lot of colleagues who they won't stand up. They're afraid. They don't have backbone. We're the ones that are standing up at 250 to say democracy is still worth embracing and improving, not just doing it the way we used to. We have to improve it for younger people. And if we're not improving it, we don't really believe in democracy. So that's the way I see this moment. two bits of evidence just this week about this battle for tyranny. One is U.S. attorneys. Now, this can seem like a wonky thing, but it's not wonky. U.S. attorneys are the chief federal law enforcement officials in the United States. And we have two in Virginia, Western District, where Washington County is, and Eastern District in the eastern part of the state. Mark Warner and I have followed the same basic principle in finding U.S. attorneys under President Obama, President Trump term 1, President Biden, President Trump term 2. We have a bipartisan panel that interviews candidates who, with integrity, could be good U.S. attorneys and execute and implement the federal laws of this country. And a panel recommends finalists to us. And then Mark and I interview them, and we recommend 2 names to the White House for each open position. We recommended names to Donald Trump this year, just like we did in his first term. Just like we did in his first term. And he analyzed the names we recommended, and he interviewed them, approved them, nominated them, and even after he nominated them, he didn't wait for the Senate to vote on their nomination. He appointed both a U.S. attorney in the Western District and the Eastern District as the interim U.S. attorney until they were Senate confirmed. President Trump just fired them both in the last month, claiming that, oh, when I heard Warner and Kaine supported him, I had to fire him. Well, wait a minute. We sent you the letter and had our signatures on, and you interviewed him, and you approved him, and you nominated him, and you appointed him. You knew we were with him. Why did you fire these folks? I'll be honest, I got some grief from some Democrats over the nominee we appointed. We recommended in the Western District of Virginia. We recommended Todd Gilbert, the Republican Speaker of the House from Shenandoah County. This was not a Democrat we recommended. Why did we recommend Todd Gilbert? Todd Gilbert is not only a prosecutor in Shenandoah County, Todd Gilbert was also a defense attorney for most of his life. He understands the rights of criminal defendants. Todd Gilbert lost the speakership when the Democrats took the majority and elected Don Scott Speaker. Our Speaker, Don Scott. And you know what Todd Gilbert said? The Republicans complained that Don Scott was an ex-con, that Don Scott had been in federal prison. And they said, that's who Democrats put up as a speaker, guy in federal prison. Don Scott's story is an amazing story of personal redemption. And Todd Gilbert, who had lost the speakership to Don Scott, stood up and said, wait a minute, I thought we were Christians. I thought we believed people deserve a second chance. A guy like Don Scott as speaker can give a lot of people hope that they can make it if they've been in prison or jail. Todd Gilbert was willing to stand up and face off against his own party and say, it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, it's something we can celebrate. And so that's why we nominated Don Scott. And Eric Siebert had been a career prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia, award after award after award, no Democratic bona fides. Trump fired him not because Warner and I sent him a letter. Trump fired him because they wouldn't bend the knee and genuflect to a tyrant. He asked Todd Gilbert, you've got to demote the chief deputy in the Western District of Virginia who has served in this district for 20 years under presidents of both parties, under congressional majorities of both parties. And Todd Gilbert said, no, I don't have to demote him. You have to demote him or you're going to lose your job. The job doesn't mean that much to me. Todd Gilbert would not genuflect to Donald Trump, and he got sacked. And Eric Siebert, this is the one that's gotten the most news. You need to prosecute Letitia James with no evidence to support her prosecution other than Donald Trump doesn't like. You need to prosecute Jim Comey with no evidence that he should be prosecuted just because Donald Trump doesn't like him. This is a guy, Eric Siebert, who started his life as a police officer in D.C. and has been a prosecutor for 15 years. And he looked at Donald Trump and said, I don't have to prosecute somebody for a crime like this that doesn't exist. And so he got fired. Todd Gilbert resigned his seat in the Virginia General Assembly to take this post. But when Donald Trump tried to push him around, he said, I'm quitting. Eric Siebert just gave up the job he's had for 15 years because he wouldn't be pushed around. We're up against tyrants, folks. We are up against tyrants. Tyrants and enablers. Tyrants never succeed without a hell of a lot of enablers. And the way tyrants get toppled is by, just like on the state seal, people with virtue standing up against them. The next thing we're working on is the budget right now. And I was over with Katie Lamb, the mayor of Damascus, and I said, what can we do? She said, please don't let there be a shutdown. And I do not want there to be a shutdown. I get it. When there's a shutdown, the Republicans forced a shutdown in 2013 in October. And all of our communities that surround national parks and the George Washington National Forest in Southwest Virginia and the Shenandoah Valley on Eastern Shore near Chincoteague, all those communities do an awful lot of their business when the leaves are out and in the fall. And this is the worst time for them to shut down. And Kaine said, please don't shut down the government. And we're doing everything we can to avoid it. But here's where it is right now. The Republicans put a budget proposal on the table that was designed like this. Donald Trump said, you don't have to work with Democrats. Don't deal with Democrats. Don't even talk to Democrats. So they came up with a Republican proposal. We came up with an alternative. September 30 is the deadline. We put an alternative on the table on September 18th. You guys all know when there's two sides and they each have an alternative, you know what you do. You sit down and you debate, and I win on this point, maybe you lose on that one, and then you win on a couple, and then I win on a couple, you have a debate. We put a proposal on the table, and the proposal basically keeps government open, guarantees that President Trump can't sign a deal and then immediately take all the money out of the deal, and it does one more thing. It fixes all the drastic cuts to Medicaid and health care that are going to cause 350,000 Virginians to lose their health insurance. That's all we're asking for. Say a deal is a deal, fix people's health care cuts. And we made the health care ask because so many Republicans are saying, we got to fix this health care. We went too far with the Medicaid cuts. John Cornyn, a Republican from Texas, said that. Mike Johnson, Republican House Speaker from Louisiana, said it. Josh Hawley from Missouri, Republican, said it. Republicans are saying we've got to fix this. And so we did a proposal that basically did what they thought we need to do, what would help Virginians and Americans. And then we said, okay, you have a proposal and we do too. We had a vote on both of them. Neither got enough votes in the Senate. Our proposal got more votes than the Republican, but neither had enough. And so we then said to the president, okay, so now's the time we sit down and talk. Four leaders, House, Senate, Democrat, Republican, and President Trump, sit down and talk. Last Sunday, President Trump said, you're right, we will. In 2013, when he wasn't president and there was a shutdown forced by Ted Cruz, he said, this is on the president. The president needs to get everybody in the room and have a discussion. And so President Trump said, that's what we'll do. And on Tuesday, he said, I'm changing my mind. I'm canceling the meeting and we're not going to do it. And then the next day he said, oh, and by the way, not only am I not going to meet, I'm going to start firing federal employees. Wait, he's already doing that. Like, it's not much of a threat if you're already doing it willy-nilly. We're just asking to sit down. We understand it's a compromise. We don't expect if we sit down with Donald Trump, he's going to say, wow, I read that Democrat proposal. I agree to 100% of it. We're going to negotiate like adults do. I mean, how does the Washington County Board of Supervisors do stuff? How does the town council in Abingdon do stuff? How does the General Assembly do stuff? Nobody says it's my way or else. No, you get in the group and you figure it out. So that's what we're trying to do, but we're dealing with a tyrant who believes it's my way or the highway. I'm sorry to go on so long, but I just got to tell you, this is very dire. I'm with the group of people who think we're in a very dire moment. But many in my group are pessimistic about the moment, and that's where I depart from the people in the dire group. I think we are tough people. We don't like being pushed around. We can be pushed for a while, but I think the American public has a snapback gene where if we're pushed too much, we say, hey, you cannot push us around. I don't care how powerful you are. I don't care how much money you have, how much Bitcoin money you've made since you walked into the office. You're not pushing us around. I think the American public are going to be like Todd Gilbert and Eric Sievert and say, you're not pushing us around. And I think we start on that in about a month in Virginia, in the elections on November 4, which is why you're gathering here today. Let me tell you about these elections. You've got Cindy Green, who is a career public servant, who's worked in finance and small businesses and healthcare and done all this work, who is now willing to say, I know this is a challenging district. I know the politics is tough, but you want somebody with the servant's heart, you got this person in me. And that's why Cindy's in. And that's why you got to do everything you can to elect Cindy to have and I'm going to come back to her in a second. These races are so important. There's 3 big races in the United States on November 4. The New Jersey governor's race and legislature, the New York City mayor's race, and the Virginia governor LGAG. Those are the 3. Big midterms next year in 2026. Mark Warner would be mad if I didn't say that. Right? Congress, big, but in 25, there's just 3. And I'll tell you, nobody looks at the New York City electorate and says, that's really a good representation of the American voter. And nobody really looks at the Jersey race and says, that's a good barometer for what Americans think. But people look at the Virginia races in California, and Oslo, and Brussels, and Beijing, and Moscow, and Arizona, and Maine. They look at the Virginia races and say, well, Virginia's kind of a battleground state. They got a Republican governor, LG and AG. The Virginia result is the window into the soul of what Americans are thinking in this battle between democracy and would-be tyranny. And we are the first race, the first one out of the gate, and we're going to either make people feel hopeful about democracy winning this battle, or we're going to make them feel despondent about it. That's how important his election is. That's how important. Abigail Spanberger, I've known her. Many of you have met her, worked with her. I've known her since 2018. She got inspired to run after a career as a public servant in the law enforcement, CIA, and postal inspector. She got inspired to run because of Donald Trump's run in 2016. And I campaigned with her nonstop in her first race in 2018. I was on the ballot that year. We did tons of events together. I said at the time, Abigail Spanberger was the best first-time candidate I have ever campaigned with, and I've campaigned with thousands. I was a DNC chair, and I've been doing this for 31 years. Abigail Spanberger was the best first-time candidate I've ever campaigned with, and she has served as good as she has campaigned. She's going to be a great governor for Virginia. And it's tough time. My friend Ghazala Hashmi, I hope some of you have gotten a chance to know her. Ghazala is my state senator. So I have gotten to know her. If I have to write a cranky letter to somebody, I can write it to her. You know, even U.S. senators want to write a cranky letter to somebody, so Ghazala is the one I can write it to. She's great. And Ghazala has been the head of the Education Committee in the Senate. I know we got educators here, right? We got a bunch of educators. We need people in state government who want to treat teachers well, not to a teacher tip line to turn them in if they say something that makes somebody mad. We don't need to be kicking teachers around. We need to be raising teachers up. And Ghazala has not only been the chair of the Education Committee, she's a lifelong educator. And having somebody in that role who, if need be, and there's a tie in the Senate, can break a tie on behalf of good policies that we care about, that's really important. And then finally, Jay Jones. I've known Jay longer than Ghazala and Abigail combined. When I ran for lieutenant governor in 2001, Senator helped me in that race. I ran against Jay's dad in a Democratic primary. Gerald Jones was the head of the Legislative Black Caucus from Norfolk, fantastic state legislator. And I ran against Gerald in that primary. And I met Jay when he was the head of that in 2001. And Gerald ended up, Mark Warner and I ended up appointing Gerald to be a juvenile court judge and then a circuit court judge. Gerald died unexpectedly just over the summer. I mean, so sad that he did not live to be able to see Jay become AG, but Jay was a rock solid member of the Virginia General Assembly. And I think he is going to be a superb advocate. Right now, in Jason Yaros, every time Trump does something that kicks Virginia around, and other AGs sue and say, wait a minute, we should get our research money. Wait a minute, Head Start funding shouldn't be canceled. Miyares always has the chance. Do I join and stand up for Virginia, or do I hide and not say a mumbling word and keep my head down? He always chooses to keep his head down and not stand up against the policies of Donald Trump. So it's really important we win these races. Then I'm going to finish with the House. And I said nice things about Cindy, but I got to tell you why the House is important. I think governors are important, okay? I have a bias. I think U.S. senators are important. I have a bias. I think putting electoral votes behind a Democrat is important. Having been on a national ticket, I have a bias. But If I look at Virginia progress, did we go from one of the hardest states in the nation to vote to one of the most convenient states in the nation to vote when we had a Democratic governor? No. Democratic senators? No. Electoral votes? No. We did that when we had 2 Democratic houses. Did we embrace better policies for dealing with climate change when we had a governor or senator? No. We did it when we had 2 Democratic houses. We have gone from bottom 3 in workers' rights in Virginia to top half, and we still got a ways to go. But we didn't do that because of a governor or a senator or electorate vote. We did it when we had both houses. How about embracing the equal rights? Did we do? No, we did it when we had both houses. How about moving down the path to re-enfranchise more people who we did it when we had both houses. I can go issue after issue after issue. If you've got a governor but you don't have both houses, they won't pass it. You might have great federal representation. If you don't have both houses, good luck. You'll make progress when you have 2 Democratic houses with solid Democratic majorities and a governor who'll sign those bills, not veto them. Constitutional amendments to re-enfranchise people who have served time, to guarantee marriage equality, to guarantee reproductive freedom. You don't get that with the governor. The governor has no role in the constitutional amendment. You get it when you have 2 houses. The House has passed the constitutional referendum language, and then it goes directly on the ballot. Governor doesn't sign it, veto it, amend it, goes directly on the ballot. I've had this 2 years in a row. So I'm finishing by telling you the races for governor get a lot of attention. Sometimes the races for the House don't get very much. Right now, the Democrats have a 51-49 majority in the House and a 21-19 majority in the Senate. We got the narrowest majorities possible. The Senate isn't up this year. It'll be up in 2 years. The best thing you could do, based on my 31 years of doing this and watching when progress really happens, the best thing you can do is make sure that we go from 51-49 to 55 or 56 or 57. That means you give a speaker a little bit of latitude, because he's got some challenging people in the family who don't always just want to do what he says. You give them the latitude to make things happen. So I've gone on a little longer than I thought, and you have a bunch more speeches, and I'm going to be driving back to Richmond so I can go on tomorrow and battle for budget sanity and no shutdown, and battle for people's health care, and battle against economic chaos, and battle against tyranny and screwing up the rule of law and our system of justice, while you are here talking about the battle right here in your neighborhood. The world is watching this, folks. I am not exaggerating this. When Warner and I are at our Democratic lunches every week, and they're leaning on all of us to do things to help the midterm elections, they then say they market me, but not you guys. We'll come back to you on the midterms after November. You guys have a job right now. You have to work with Virginians and link arms and give people hope. I mean, people need hope. Democracy or tyranny? Couldn't be simpler. People need hope that we will answer that question right. And because of how I've gotten to know you in 41 years of coming out here, first for family stuff and now for politics, and because of how I've got to know every corner of Virginia in office for more than 3 decades, we're going to give them some hope, aren't we? We're going to give them some hope, and we're going to have a big win. Thank you guys very much.